Welcome back to the never-ending video on creating a database website where you can enter data and it goes onto the database. In the last video, we set up the primary key. We made sure the primary key was working. We also went through and looked at the foreign key, which is right there. Now I want to see how those work together on the website. Plus the other thing is I want to just run through the website once to make sure that it's still working, that things are going right. And how do we link these two extra tables in terms of entering data? We've linked them for the foreign key, but how do we actually enter the data? So what we're going to do is we're just going to go up here to the website. Here it is here. I'm just going to hit refresh. And we're going to go through and fill someone in. So let's do, I don't know, Sarah Johnson. That'll do. Sarah Johnson's going to be a female, and she's going to be English, and her date of birth is going to be 1976. I don't know. And the month is going to be the 4th, and the day can be the 15th. Let's say that'll do. So we hit submit. It says, congratulations, you've successfully entered the data. Go back to start. Well, going back to the start's no good. I actually want to see the data, and I want to start linking it to those other tables. So if we go to MAMP, we can go into players here, and we can go into browse, and we can see, look, there it is, Sarah Johnson, English, 1976. So it's worked. The information's worked. But how do I see this table on the website, or how do I see any table on the website? So we're going to go into brackets, and I've added an extra page here, and every so often you'll see extra pages come in. I've added an extra page here which I'm going to put on the Google Classroom, and it's called review update, right? So review upd.php. Now, in my B page, which is the page that says congratulations, you have successfully entered the data, where it says here, click the button to go to players.html back to the start. I'm going to change this page. So I'm going to change it so it doesn't go back to the start. This time I'm going to make it go to the B page, so the review update.php. All right, and this time we're going to change what it says. Rather than go back to the start, we're going to change it to review and update the data. So okay, so I've changed it so that it says review and update the data, and you'll click that button, and then it'll take you to this review update file, which is right there, reviewupdate.php. Now, the file itself. The file itself is made up of a heading at the start, which we've shown you how to do in the other videos, and then it's got all of this information here on getting a table. Now, I'm not going to claim this as my own code or any of that sort of stuff. I went on the internet, I did some research, same as you guys do in the classroom, and when you don't know a piece of code, you go and do some research. So I didn't know how to do this perfectly, so I went online and I did a bit of research, and I've come up with this structure here, which from about echo from there down to about there, so that sort of stuff. I went and found this code online. I looked at Stack Overflow, I looked at W3 Schools and those websites, and I ended up coming up with this. Now, basically what this code does is it creates a table with a border thickness of 1 pixel, a black border. You put in the headings here that you want, so I adapted the code to suit this website. So it's got player ID, first name, last name, date of birth, nationality, and the gender. They're the sort of things that I wanted to come up in my table. And you can adapt that, you can change that, you can change the border thickness, you can change the border color, you can do all those sorts of things. That's easy, right? You kind of know how to do that at this stage. This is the bit that was a bit harder, right? So it sets up a function that goes through and works through finding the information and getting it back from the database. You still need to have your user server name, your login, your password, which database it's going to. If it finds all of that, then you're going to try this connection. So it goes on, it tries to make the connection, and it goes through and does. Essentially, this is the query, and this is the query that you need to change and manipulate on different pages to make sure that we get the right information. So I've asked it to select the player ID, the first name, the last name, the date of birth, the nationality, the gender from the players table. Now we're going to change that later so that you'll be getting some information from the cars table, you'll be getting some information from the careers table, but that line of code is one of the bits that you go through and change. This is off the internet and it's pretty generic. This up here, that's how our table's going to look. So this is going to present a table for us. After we've done that table, then I've put in some extra information. And this is back to being my code and our code. We've got a little bit of HTML at here. So the bit up the top here is PHP. The bit down here is HTML. We've set up a new form here that says, and it's going to go to a file called update. And that has some more input information, right? So select the player ID. So from the table that comes up at the top, you're going to select the player ID. That player ID is going to then go in under the heading of re-enter. It's going to be a post under the heading of re-enter. And it's got a placeholder called player ID. Then we've got select the club of the player, and that's going to go under the heading of team, right? So that's going to come in as the team thing. And then you're going to have all of these different teams they can choose from, and a submit button or a home button, which will still take us back to that original enter another players page, right? So we've just added an extra page into the system that we're using. Now, it references here an update.php file. So we need to have that file as well, and it needs to update the database. But this information, club, that's not going to go into the players database. That needs to go into the career database. So this is the career table. So this is where we're starting to use the two tables together, and we're using that foreign key to link the player ID from the previous table with the club, which is going to go into the new table. So we'll go up here, and I've already made some of these files. So I'll go and open this one as well. Open. This is where I said there were a few extra files in there. I'm going to open the update file, and this is the update file. Now, again, you should recognize a lot of this. It's a PHP file. It's got our username, our server name, our password, our database name. It's got an ID which comes from the re-enter, where I said you re-enter the ID from the table, and it's got the team that's selected. Then it does a connection to the database and make sure that it connects. If it doesn't connect, it's going to come up and say didn't connect, right? If it does connect, we're going to go through and do this query, and this is really important because this query uses the foreign key. It's not just a query into a single, like a flat database. This uses the foreign key and gets into two tables. So it says, insert into the careers table the team that we select from up here and the player ID. Now the player ID has to be the one that's coming from the players table. So it's going to be a foreign key entry, right? Select the team from up here. The player ID, you get that from the players table, where the player ID equals this ID up here. So in other words, when the person puts, say, I want to choose player number 5 up here, it goes to the database, it goes to the player ID, it finds player number 5 here, and then it chooses that information from that ID there, it puts it with the team, and it links them together. All right, so this is kind of the one key file that links everything together. And I'll post this on the Classroom along with the review update, so you guys can just download it and manipulate it and change it a little bit to suit you. But this is the way we've done it, right? So after we get to the B page, it's going to go click the button to go to review and update. From there, it should show us first of all, it should show us the table. From that, we should be able to select an ID that we like, and then we can choose the club for the person. Then we click enter, and it'll update using the update.php file. It should update our database. So let's go back and try all of this from the start. Make sure all my files are saved, which they are. Go back to here. Let's go to website. Let's start with players, and we'll enter a new player. So we're going to call this player, I don't know, John Smith. Pretty creative name. And John Smith's going to be a male, and he's going to be Italian, and his date of birth is going to be 1987, and he's going to be born in January, on the 1st of January. And we hit submit. So we've entered John Smith. And it says, congratulations, you've successfully entered the data, but this button here has changed now to review and update the data. So I click on that, and it brings me up a table, and this table shows all of the information that we've done so far. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 different people entered into there, and you can see the number 7 one was John Smith, 1987, 1st of January, he's Italian and he's male. So we're getting that information back from the database from all the different things. Now this is where I'm going to select the ID. So I'm going to select John Smith. I'm going to select him, player ID number 7. He's the 7. I got it from my player ID there. I'm going to say he played for Real Madrid, and I'm going to hit submit. Oh, and it's trying to go to Players B, where I had this file set up to jump to Players B. But let's see if this actually worked in terms of entering the data. So I'm going to go back to MAMP, go to my players, and I can browse my players. Now I know this worked. I just saw it. John Smith, Italian, that worked. Now let's go to careers and see if John Smith is in our careers. Browse this. And here you go. You can see player ID 7 doesn't have his name, it just has his player ID 7. He's the first person we've put into the career section, and it has him playing for Real Madrid. That's what I selected. Now let's click on this 7. You'll notice the 7 is blue, right? That's because we've used the foreign key to link the player ID. So let's click on that. And when I click on that, it brings up, hey, player ID, that's John Smith, who's Italian. And so you can see we're starting to link the two tables together. We've linked players and we've linked careers. So that it's starting to work. We've got a lot more work to do, but that's starting to work. Now let's just have a look at the brackets file of why that jumped to one that we didn't get to. Let's have a look at update. So with the update file, it goes down here after we've done the query. Here we go. After the query, it's saying jump to playersb.html. Now I don't want it to do that. I want it to jump to just players.html, which is our file up here. It'll take us back to the start and we can enter a new player. So I've just changed that to players.html. Command S, save. Everything should be perfect. Next video, we are going to expand this review updated file. We're going to put a lot more different a lot of different information in here, and we're going to start to develop the bit of individuality in the website, because I want you to make it your own. I don't want it to be 15 kids in the class who've got exactly the same website. So I want you to start making it more personalized. Next video.